guys, it's coffee time. And I'm in a very good mood today because I finally got my license. I am finally a resident of California. It turns out that if you've lived in California for a certain amount of time, it's illegal to drive without a California license, which I did not know until one of my friends got pulled over and got a ticket for it, which is very sad. But my license was already expired, as many of you know, which is why I've been becoming very good friends with the metro system here. And I've enjoyed it very much, but I was very excited to finally have a license again and drive around and not have to plan out like an hour and a half of travel time for a place that's 20 minutes away. It gets very tedious, which I realize that, you know, it's good for it to be there. Public transit is fantastic, but I like now that I have the option of just driving straight there. That's so great. But a lot of you probably remember when I went to the DMV and the lady came out and I was in this huge line and she said, all right, so our computers are having issues. The wait time is going to be about 4 hours. So if you want to stay, feel free. I don't know why you would, but otherwise we can make an appointment for you. So at that time I made an appointment. I actually have missed 2 appointments so far, which just stressed me out. I was like, what if the DMV only allows you to miss 2 appointments and then you're never allowed back at the DMV, right? Just like weird things that you stress about when you're half awake in bed. But no, they allowed me to make a 3rd appointment. The first one that I made, I missed because we scheduled a shoot, and then the second one that I made, I missed because I went to San Jose with all the Papa stuff that was going on. So, made this 3rd appointment, checked and double-checked my planner, made sure that it was all gonna work out, that I was gonna be able to go. I even called someone up, and I was like, I know you don't care. You don't care if I have my license or not, but right now, I wish that we were staring into each other's eyes meaningfully so that I could look at you and say, I promise I am going to get my license on Wednesday. And she was like, oh, all right, you're right, I don't really care if you get your license or not, but thank you. And I was like, yes. Now I've promised someone, regardless of if they care or not, I've given my vow, right? So, today rolled around. I went to the gym this morning. I was like so pumped. When I get back from the gym, I'm gonna take all the tests, I'm gonna take a shower, I'm gonna eat a nice big breakfast, it's gonna be great. So I went to the gym, got back, took all the tests, didn't get any questions wrong on the practice tests. I felt like such a baller. And then you know what I did? I made a mistake. I made a horrible mistake and sat on my bed and suddenly it was 11 o'clock and my appointment was at 11:30 and I was like, no! But on the plus side, my duvet is finally here and it's so pretty. You can't tell, but it's a map of the world and all of the different countries are a different pattern and I absolutely love it. It's a little softer than I expected. I think it's gonna be warmer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be pretty thin, but I'm not complaining. It's gorgeous and I love it, and Mike came into my room and told me that it was too girly, and then we chest bumped and it was awesome. Anyway, so I woke up at 11 and went, all right, well, DMV is in walking distance, so that's good. I'm gonna frantically take a shower, try to do something with my hair so that we don't have a repeat of last time. Have you guys seen my old driver's license? I look like a drug lord. It's intense. My hair, oh, this is convenient. My hair is this color, which I was laughing at the gym because I realized my mom was like, just this next picture, please have normal hair. Please have normal hair because that picture on your old one, you look insane and your hair is terrible. And I was like, I know, man, I know. Don't worry, I won't make this mistake again. And I was giggling to myself because technically my hair is like a shade of pink now. It doesn't look like it when I make these videos because it like has a lot of like darkness on it, but when you're in the light, it's very, it's got some pinky hues to it. So I was like giggling to myself, going up, messed up again. But I managed to make my hair look pretty normal. I looked put together, said to myself, all right, don't smile too big so that you look insane like last time, but don't not smile because then you just look angry. Just do the like mid-range, and I nailed it. I have a mid-range neutral photo. It's not fantastic and it's not terrible. It's just, it's something like, it's like, it's just There's not a whole lot to it. I was very happy with it. I went, man, nailed it. Hit it right on the head. So anywho, I got there today. I got ahead of myself, unfortunately. But I got there today, right on time. Guys, to the minute I got there on time. And I stood in line and went to the lady and told her what I needed. And she said, all right, do you have a passport or a birth certificate? And I said, well, I have my social security card. And she just stared me down and goes, that's nice. Do you have a passport or a birth certificate? And I was like, no. And then she laughed. She said, all right, well, because you're out of state, this technically will be your first license, according to California. So you have to either have your passport or your birth certificate. And I said, okay, so I have to come back. And she just nodded sadly, and I said, okay, I'm gonna walk home then. So I walked home and had the sitcom scenario where the last place that I looked is where my passport was. Guys, right now my room looks okay. You need to know it was covered in papers, covered in everything from all of the places that I put important documents, which unfortunately happened to be a lot of places. Once I finally had something that I needed to find, it was like impossible. And the very last place I looked is where it was. I was so angry. It took me like 50 minutes to find it. I was just going through so many things because I have different binders for different things, but sometimes I get lazy and I put important stuff in those binders. So I was like, well, I've got to check every binder. I have to check every box that I've ever put paperwork in. I have to check everything. All of my safes, just everything. I even checked, guys, I even checked things like my underwear drawer. I was like, what if, what if really sleepy Dodger coming back from Ukraine was like, and just put the passport like in a random drawer. So then I was stressing out about that. I was opening all of those, and then you know where it was? It was in my receipts folder. It was in this. Do you know where this normally is? Right there. I was like, no! It was right here the whole time. I didn't have to go into my closet. I didn't have to go through anything, but it wound up being a mixed blessing, and I'll get to that later. So I got my passport. I texted all my roommates and said, there's stuff in the hallway because I was trying to find my passport. My room is a disaster. I'm really sorry, but when I get back, I promise you that I'll clean it. They all texted me back going, it's okay, it's fine. It's like, okay. Because I got a license to get, so I went back to the DMV. I didn't run because I didn't want to show up there like drenched in sweat. Went back to the DMV and I was like, oh man, I don't think that I technically have an appointment anymore. So that sucks. So I stood in the line for people without an appointment, which fortunately at that time of day was only one other person, and I was like, yeah, success, kid. So I get up there, and it's a new lady. I explained to her what I need. I filled out the paperwork while I was home so that I wouldn't even have to deal with it. I hand her the paperwork, and it turns out that the lady from before had written on it an appointment number. It wasn't like an actual one that I could use and just, you know, sit in the audience and be like, oh, of course I have a passport. But it let the other person know that I did have an appointment. So that was awesome. So she said, oh, it looks like you had an appointment here, so I'll give you one of the appointment numbers so that you'll get in within the next 20 minutes. And I was like, yes! So happy. So then I sat there and I was, you know, like diddling around on my phone for a while. And I get up there, and the guy that helps me out went on like maybe a 10-minute rant while he was putting in all my information and doing all this stuff. He went on like maybe a 10-minute rant about how he really doesn't like wearing reading glasses, but he really needs them. So what is he to do? Also, did you know that his niece is a doctor, but she doesn't want to be a donor? Isn't that silly? Why on earth wouldn't she want to be a donor? And I was like, what's happening? What's happening right now? Like, can I get a license? So he messes around with that for a while, and I almost had a heart attack because he's typing stuff in, and then he leans back like this, and he looks at me. He goes, do you have anything outstanding in Oregon? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, anything legally having to do with driving. Do you have anything, like an outstanding situation? There's something coming up on your record. was like, I mean, I was in an accident like years ago. Would that still be on there for some reason? And I don't know why that would keep me from getting a license. And he goes, all right. And so then he goes around and talks to like every other person working there, asking what he should do. And I was like, if I can't get my license today, if I break my vow to that acquaintance, not even a friend, just like an acquaintance, I'm gonna be really upset. I'm gonna be so upset. So he finally comes back with another lady. And she looks at it, and she asks me the exact same questions he did, and I respond. And she goes, all right, so you have a California license. I said, no, this will be my first California license. And she goes, She looks at the monitor for a while, and then says something to the guy, and then they continue on totally normal. Like, there was no problem at all. And he goes, all right, so that'll be $31. Okay, and now you're gonna walk over there and get your picture taken, and then you'll take the test. And I was like, so this wasn't an issue. So I can still, so much stress. So I go over, I get my picture taken, I do the, you know, not too big of a smile, but not frowning, take my neutral photo, and then I get over to where the testing happens. There are 2 different people that got yelled at while I was in the testing area. I was like, how do you get yelled at over here? What are you possibly doing? There was one guy who, for some reason, just like wandered in there, and a lady followed him in and was like, sir, you're not, this is a test, sir, you're not supposed to. The camera stopped me because it knew I was getting a little too intense. So the guy left, right? And I'm taking my test. It's a pretty long test, but most of the questions were on the practice quizzes. But then there were a couple questions on there that I was like, that I guessed on. It's like, all right, just, if I get more than 6 wrong, I don't get my license today. So I stood in line. And when I first got there to like grab the test and start taking it, there was no one in line. And then suddenly, right when I finished my quiz, everyone finished their quiz. And I was like, no! So I was like standing in line for forever. And turns out, I was really excited because it turns out that you are able to take the test 3 times in the same session. So in Oregon, if you take it once and you fail it, they send you home. You have to come back 24 hours later. But in California, and I don't know if it's because it's a longer test or what, in California, they let you take it 3 times in a row without having to leave and come back. But if you fail all 3, then you have to leave and come back. So I was like, all right, if I don't pass it, it's okay, because I can just take it again, but really don't want to have to do that. So, standing in line, the old lady in front of me like didn't understand anything, and she kept asking all sorts of questions, and the lady was like, no, you're done, you're done, you have your license. And the lady was like, oh, but what about, well, but what about this? And I was like, are you sure she should be driving? So I get up there, I hand her my test. She's going through, I've gotten like all of them right. So far, she's just like gliding down, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And then suddenly she marks 4 in a row wrong, and I was like, and there's still half the test to grade, and I was like, no! I got so scared. And I got all the rest of them right. My heart was on fire. I was like, please just let me pass this. Please just let me pass this. So I passed it. It all went totally fine. And I went home, and I immediately left again. I got home, and I was like, all right, I should clean up all this stuff. I told them I would clean it up. And then I immediately left to go to the grocery store. I was like, I really want to drive. I'm just going to leave. So I left. I went to the grocery store, got some vegetables, got a coffee, felt like an adult. Oh, it was so great to drive myself, guys. It was awesome. And then when I got home, the reason that I say that it wound up being a blessing, that I had to tear my room apart, is that I wound up looking through all of these things that had papers in them that I hadn't looked at in forever. Because in my mind it was just, these are important papers. That's all I knew. Like, in the back of my mind, it was, this binder has important papers in it. But I hadn't looked through them in forever. A lot of them were things that I did not need anymore. So I went to Ro. I was like, hey, can I use your shredder? And she was like, sure. And I just shredded so much stuff. Like, so many things that I really, really didn't need anymore. But had, like, enough information of mine on them that I was like, I don't feel right just, like, recycling all this paper. Like, I'm just gonna shred it all, you know? So I shredded a ton of stuff. I consolidated everything into, I have like a tiny filing box, consolidated every important paper and item into my box. And I'm really happy about that because it meant that I could get rid of a couple more things. It means that I have more space. It was really nice. So now, after that I was like, cleaned up my room a little bit. My duvet came, I put my duvet on the bed. So it's been a good day. It's honestly, like, I had some stressful moments, but it's been a really good day. And I'm so happy to be a driver again. That is the best feeling. I'm planning on still using the buses and the metro sometimes, but I like having the option of driving. It's just so nice. But yeah, I'm gonna go eat some food. I'm gonna make me a good dinner. But I hope that you guys had a good day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Mwah!